Hi, today I'm going to be teaching you how to juggle. When you start off juggling, you start with one and you begin by tossing it back and forth between your hands. Once you get this down, you want to be able to get a good pattern. Well, it's one, but you want to be able to get good tosses back and forth and make sure that it lands at the center point every time. Everybody's center point is different, so I can't really describe it for you, but it's the natural place where your eyes look. Instead of tracking the ball, you just see it go up to that center point, and you know where it came from and how it's going to fall into your hand. After that, you want to move on to two, and with two, it's the same thing, but as your second ball is coming down, you need to empty your hand, so you throw your other ball. So it looks like this. It's very simple. You don't want to hand it across because that is a different pattern. So once you get used to this, you can start with either hand. So I'm switching hands every time. So the orange ball is the first ball that's thrown. But once you get used to that, you can add another ball and you can just have a continuous pattern, because instead of there being an empty hand for you to stop the pattern like with two, it's just constantly emptying and filling your hands. It's important that you always start juggling with the hand with two balls in it, which should be your dominant hand, because that's how you start the pattern. Moving on to something like rings. Rings are the same pattern exactly, but it's a bit more complicated the way you start. When you're starting, you want to be able to have a nice grip on the inside ring or the outside ring and be able to throw one independently without letting go of the one that's in your hand. This is important because you want to be able to have a nice start with your juggling pattern. So I can hold on tightly to this ring and throw this one up independently to start my pattern. There's a lot of different ways to hold your rings, but I found that the best way was putting my two fingers in between the rings. Moving on to something like clubs, your grip will be a little bit different with nothing in between, but you have a strong grip with your three fingers like this, and you just place this one on top and hold it with your thumb. And you want to be able to throw that one without throwing the other one. And a lot of when you're juggling clubs is focusing on the arm movement and not the wrist movement, because the more movement you have in your wrist, the more likely you are to have a messy pattern or over-rotate or under-rotate, because your wrist can't be as accurate as your whole arm can be. Moving on to 4, as you build up in the amount of things you're juggling, every time you're juggling something that is an odd number, you want to make sure you're doing a crossing pattern. So with 3, it's like this, and with 5, it would be like that with 2 extra balls. Now with 4, every even number, the total amount of balls you're juggling cut in half is how many you have in each hand. So if I have 4 balls, that means that in this hand I'm going to be doing 2, and in the other hand I'm going to be doing 2, which looks like this. Notice how the orange stays in my left hand and the red stays in my right. Now I can show you a few tricks that you can do with 3. And one thing to note is that juggling may not seem like a career that you can do. It may seem like just a hobby, but I get hired to do gigs where I can be paid from $50 to $100 an hour just to juggle, or still. So it's a thing you can do. You can get paid. You can be a juggling teacher. And that is how to juggle.